Hi folks, I'm Nathan with Two Guys in a Ride, and today we are at the Back to the 50s Car Show on this beautiful, gorgeous day. And we're here with Ken, and we're here with his 1964 Buick Riviera. Ken, what a beautiful car.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be in your program.
There are so many details, Ken, but let's just start with a couple of facts. First of all, this has been a father-son project.
It is a 100% a father-son project. My dad, Ken Becker, same name as me, and my dad, of course, is obviously very talented and has taught me, everything that I know. So, yeah, it was a 7-year project. I didn't really know anything about Rivieras until my dad bought a '65 Riviera.
Okay.
And in the process of block sanding and working the body over, the lines start to really come alive, and I really wanted to lower that car and shave the door handles and go with a green of some sort, and my dad would not have any part of it.
Okay.
So in fact, his response was, "Do your own." So here we are. 11 years later, it took 7 years to get to our first car show. Over the last 4 years, we've been showing the car pretty regularly. A lot of big indoor shows, Detroit and Chicago.
It's been featured in a few other places.
Street Rodder magazine and Hot Rod, and I was on the cover of Riviera, the Review, awesome magazine, and it's just an honor to be. To get all the love that this car gets, I mean, it's really appreciated and not lost on me at all.
It is when you put all that work into it. It's nice to have that feedback, isn't it? How did you get started in cars? You did all this yourself, the paint, the body work. What was the impetus to get you going?
Well, I love making things look pretty, basically. Okay. And my dad is the mechanical genius, basically. And together as a team, we did something like this. But growing up, I grew up around my dad, always painting a car, fixing everything, no matter what it was in a car, and I learned a lot, when he'd let me come in the garage and help.
How old are you the first time your dad helped you spray paint?
I was about 12 years old, and my dad was spraying our old GMC Jimmy out in the driveway, and he had me stand in front of him and hold the spray gun and help me move that spray gun back and forth. And I felt like this is something I could do. So he's since let go of my hands and let me take care of the painting aspect of things. So he's certainly the one that makes sure a car stops good, starts good, runs good, and all that stuff. And he and I together make this thing, make cars look good. So that's really how it works.
You certainly do.
We're a team.
All right. Well, let's start by going down, the side, because you mentioned the shaved door handles.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
So it's important to understand that a Riviera is, first of all, we recognize it as, from a coffee table book, that it was considered one of the world's top 100 most beautiful cars. Mm-hmm. The 1963 Riviera, which is the first gen Riviera. And my dad bought a '65 Riv, and I painted that car, and I wanted to lower it and do all these things, and he wanted to keep it stock. Well, I had this vision in my mind that I couldn't let go of, and that was shave the door handles. Basically, let the body stand out on its own and do all the talking. Okay. So, and that's really what this is all about. So I didn't want to disrespect the Riviera community out there, because the Riviera is such a beautiful design car. And so we just tried to remove some things like door handles, locks, mirrors, antenna.
So that when you look down the side, I think what you said is
I just wanted to see that body, and I wanted to do something on each side of the car. Specifically on the sides of the car, I wanted the exhaust to come out the side.
That is just really cool.
And those those exhaust ports are actually from a 2015 Buick LaCrosse.
Okay.
And the back of the car, we've got 89 Cadillac taillights. The front of the car, I like the look of the '65 that had the clamshell, the famous clamshell headlights. But I also like the parking lamps that the '63 and '4 offered. So what we decided to do was mount the headlights behind the grille. So the headlights shine through that billet grille. And do a really good job of actually working. We didn't know if it would work, but it actually works quite well, especially after some trial and error and getting the right kind of headlights in there. So
people will sometimes confuse this between a '64
and that's where the name Deception comes from.
Right,
A lot of
you'll see
people
that on
think-
the engine cover. You see it on the
Yes.
license plates. A few other spots.
Yes, a lot of people think it's a 65 Riv because they don't see the headlights. They assume that they're the clamshell, but I wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted the quarter panel trim that the 63 and 4 offer, but I like the look of the 65 with the clean look in the front end with no headlights showing. So,
Let's talk a little bit about the paint lines right here, because if we start in the back, first of all, I love the color combination. The paint
Thank
job
you.
is spectacular. I mean, it's just incredible. So you had 2 different tones of green, right?
yes, sir.
How did you come up with this middle area, this fill area?
Well, that's interesting. I knew that I had to, whenever you do a two-tone, you want to break it with a pinstripe of some sort. So I knew that there would be maybe a tan or something. I give my wife credit for coming up with the gold color, and it ended up being a graphic. One of the ideas I came up with was actually doing this body of the graphic so it actually jumped up on top of the quarter panel, which I thought was kind of a unique idea. But interestingly enough, Chip Foose, I watch all those car shows,
Right, oh, yeah.
right? Everything, that's all I watch. And I learned from Chip Foose that when you two-tone a car, it should be 2/3 one color, 1/3 the other. Never half and half. And so often you see people use the middle body line, ultimately giving you 50%, 50%,
Right.
half and half. And the 2/3, 1/3 rule is a general unspoken art rule. So,
Okay.
but to create this middle color of the graphic, I wanted something that didn't stand out too much. So what I did was mix the dark green with the light green and
To come
created
out with
this
that
middle
color.
green. Yeah, I wanted something again that didn't stand out too much. But then there's a graphic inside this graphic, which is Line Time by House of Color, and that is actually Hemi Orange. That pinstripes that inner graphic.
And that is just amazing, and I hope it comes out in the video. But I mean, if you start at the back, this whole area, you've got the orange and you've got the gold pinstriping, but the green is all the same color.
Yes, it is.
And it fades into this second, brighter green.
Exactly. You want to have something that stands out. And that's really what the orange does and what that lime time does. Another art rule, you want to pick a color on the opposite side of the color wheel, and that's what that orange is.
Ah.
That's how you get a contrast color.
So there's a great deal of science that are going into this
A little
paint
bit,
job.
just general art rules that my wife, who's an art teacher, taught me.
That's
so.
all. All right. So and then the pinstriping picks up again along the side because you lose the red, the orange
That's
for a
correct.
little bit.
It basically doubles.
Which is nice, and then it comes back, and then you get that same green effect as you come down in, and it's just wow.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for noticing. There's a lot more to it than at what first might appear. So,
all right, let's talk about the lines on the roof.
the roof line is one of the most distinctive features on the first gen Riviera, and Bill Mitchell was in Europe, the designer of this car, and he loved the Rolls Royce and the look of that roof, that really sharp edged roof. I knew that if we lowered this Riviera a little bit, a few inches like we did, that this would stand out even more. And in the process of priming and block sanding multiple times, I did my best to accentuate and to highlight those sharp lines on the roof, which I think is such a delicate, elegant look to the Riviera.
Well, it is. And tell us a little bit of how I mean, like when you were block sanding.
Absolutely.
You just use the up direction on one side.
For all you painters out there, block sanding is the most important part about painting a car. So as I'm working that block in sandpaper, I would sand up to the line and then sand into the line, but never on the line.
To get that
to
nice
sharpen it, absolutely. Wow. To the point where when it comes time to sand the clear coat, same process, and buffing, you had to be really careful not to burn through that corner that sticks out. Yes.
Yeah, that's just incredible, and it looks stunning. I hope it comes across good on video, but it's absolutely stunning in person. Let's walk to the back and let's talk about these taillights a little bit.
Absolutely. So I love everything about the Riviera, but I was never a big fan of those kind of blocky taillights that it had. Plus, the taillights that this car had were needed to be replaced. I decided to take that opportunity to do something a little different. Those taillights are out of an '89 Cadillac.
Okay.
They were originally mounted when in the Cadillac vertically. In this case, I figured if we mount them lateral or horizontal, they would kind of fit proportionally really nicely in that space, and without using LEDs. Those are incandescent bulbs.
Okay.
So I wanted to give it a factory look a little bit.
So yeah, I think they look great.
Thank you.
I think they just extend what might have been another year's facelift.
Yes.
On the back end where you had a little longer taillights, a little more visibility.
Absolutely.
But
before they were doing that, essentially.
Right. Now, on the inside, obviously, you've had some modifications in the trunk.
Certainly.
So you did, instead of, in fact, we were talking, you said, after you got done, this is a true painter and sculptor here, after you were done doing these lines, you looked at it and said, well, I could just put a cover over it, but I really like how it looks.
Sometimes the bracing of the structure is beautiful, and
yes.
I felt that way about this, and right out of the spray gun, it turned out pretty nice. So I felt like I don't want to cover that up. So in a sense, highlight it, give the contrast with a tan vinyl insert in there. So.
And there were actually glue points.
There were little landing pads in there that almost made it like a no-brainer.
Maybe at some point Riviera might have
maybe.
I do like all the badging that you've added to what you've done, because it lends that look of, well, this could have been Riviera, this could have been something they did down the line.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about balance. So, the Riviera emblems, I took exterior emblems off the car, other than the Riviera script, which is gorgeous on the fenders. But the actual script R is such a cool, distinctive thing that I wanted to put in a couple places. So I have it underneath the trunk and also inside the trunk as well. You'll also see it inside the interior and under the hood. Same as the screen that's used. And by the way, those are light boxes, so at cruise nights at night, I can hit a switch and those illuminate.
Nice.
Nice.
It
really makes it more
show
fun
off that interior.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's walk around the side here, and let's talk a little bit about your rims.
Absolutely. Yeah, finding the right rim size and the stance is critical with a car, especially when you're going to lower it. The goal is to have a car sit, in my opinion at least, the rear wheel should cut through that top of the wheel well. And the rear wheel should look like they're sunk into that wheel well a little bit without having to tub it. And trying to find the right wheel size and tire size. I give my dad all the credit for that. Research, trial and error, working with Discount Tire, trying things and returning it to figure out what fits and fills up that wheel well. It's all about proportionment. So, but those are 18-inch wheels, 10-inch wide rims in the back. The fronts are 8.5-inch wide, again 18-inch in the fronts as well. So I wanted to do something that I felt like wouldn't date the car, and and decided not to go with the 20-inch, which seemed to be a popular thing at that time when this car was finished.
I think it looks stunning. Now, on the inside, you mentioned this earlier at the opening, but you got Cadillac seats.
They are the 2010 Cadillac CTS front bucket seats without the headrests. The headrest made them way tall. So made my own headrest to be in place of the factory headrest. The rest of the interior was done to match. Right, and then so the Cadillac emblems and stuff were added. Exactly, added Cadillac emblems and the classic V you see. And now the factory Riviera had a rear armrest, very rare option. So had that covered, of course, to match. And so is the grill that's behind it? That is factory, absolutely. Yep. So the buckets in the rear was such a cool thing, just like the console in the front that went up. So this was designed, so the armrest is designed if you want to get rid of it, not to fold up, but to go forward and down. Yeah, and it would become a full bench, essentially. Okay. But I keep it up all the time just because it looks cool. Never had a front armrest. Correct. But I like how when you built that, you put the Riviera symbol in there. Absolutely. An actual Riviera emblem that you... And of course, there's a light built hidden inside there, so it illuminates that hole underneath the armrest as well. That's just sweet. Yeah, same thing with the rear armrest that's illuminated underneath as well. So. And then, of course, you've got a different steering wheel. You've got a different... It's a billet steering wheel. Okay. Mm-hmm. A different infotainment system, but you would have had that same area would have been... Exactly. It's still Riviera. Yeah. That's where it would have gone, and then all the gauges are original. That's a Riviera dash panel. I basically wanted to take what Riviera offered and show it off. Let's walk to the front and talk about this beautifully. Well, it's gorgeous just to look at. It's like a sculpture. On top of that, inside of a beautiful garden. It's as we all know, everyone who loves these old cars, the engine compartment's got to look cool. And I am inspired by Rad Rides by Troy, so Troy Trepanier, Ring Brothers, Foose, Boyd Coddington. and of course Dave Kindig is just exceptional. So I like to take a little bit from all of them, and with a budget that most people could probably swing. So doing it yourself, of course, the labor's free.
And over, of course, what's 7 years?
7 years, but there's a lot of work done to hide things. So in the Riviera, all the main wiring harness and a lot of the vacuum lines and all those things that really aren't that great attractive to look at are still there. They're just hidden behind that
the firewall. Okay.
Symmetrical firewall, homage to Boyd Coddington.
Okay, hang on.
The car had factory air conditioning.
Okay.
I wanted to remove it just because it took up so much space underneath the hood, and I wanted that negative space around
symmetrical
the engine.
now.
I just wanted to see that engine and hide as many things as we could, so we just see that beautiful Buick nail head. It's a 425 cubic inch nail head with a single 4-barrel carburetor. That air cleaner is actually from a 67 Skylark. They call it the Star Wars air cleaner. I wanted to basically design and build something like that, and then come to find that Buick already did it. So that seemed like a great fit as well. And then, of course, in this case, I wanted to hide the structure underneath the hood.
Right.
It didn't look quite as good as what the trunk offered, so we made a panel and basically notched it out so it would fit over that air cleaner. Custom panel that covers between the grille and the radiator, and again, wanting to highlight that engine.
And it does. I mean, it's stunning. It's just like a sculpture. Well, Ken, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I do have one more question for you. What's one of your favorite memories with this car, with this particular build?
Well, overall, it's doing a project like this with my father.
Yeah.
I mean, very few people get a chance to do something like this at this level with my dad. I would still be block sanding if it wasn't for my father. So
he's the one that says it's done, Ken.
Yeah, it's straight enough.
Yeah.
And for me, as a painter, I was a former House of Color representative, based out of Minnesota originally, and I wanted it to be right. I wanted to impress him, basically, and myself too in a certain way. So
I think you've done that and then gone a few levels beyond.
I appreciate that.
Ken, it's just a beautiful car. I like to think of this as the Riviera that would have been built had it kept going.
Yeah, I would think hope Bill Mitchell would actually approve of some of the changes and enhancements, I should call it, that were made to this car. So great respect to the Riviera. It does most of the job by itself. So,
Ken, thank you so much for sharing your story about your car and we got Dad in here finally. All right.
Say hi. I hope you like the car, everybody.
This is Ken Sr. Or just Ken Normal. That's Ken Jr.
So yeah, this is the A-team right here. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and make sure to check out Two Guys and a Ride. And I can't wait to see this featured. So really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thanks again, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.